Hey, it's David Wellner here. I've had the opportunity to work with SRG for I think almost about a year now, and I've got a chance to work with them with two companies, one TowerPoint and the other Armadillo, and it's been a great ride. Yeah, so one of the nice things about our SRG, just to sort of speaks to your flexibility, is that you generally work with SaaS companies, but coming from a SaaS company, I'm actually aware that a lot of these best practices and tools can be very effective outside of SaaS. So we've been able to work with you in non-tech driven companies, and it's really worked out well. It's proven that idea. Yeah, like what were some of the challenges that both TowerPoint and Armadillo were facing when we reached out to SRG? You know, look, TowerPoint had a purely sales-driven outbound model, and they, started to see some competitors grabbing some deals. It at least felt like they were coming at us with some tools that we had to look into and try to keep up with that we may not have been taking full advantage of. So we brought SRG in and reached out to them and say, hey, we want to strengthen the brand digitally. We want to play some defense. And then, once we get to that point, we want to start going on some offense. For Armadillo, one of our main distribution channels is through real estate agents. There are about 1.5 million of them in the US, and our team, gets to those agents mainly through boots on the ground. And some are actively working using digital tools, emails, fair amount of social. But we've grown the team dramatically over the past 6 months, and we thought we could get a lot of leverage out of bringing SRG in to centrally orchestrate a good portion of that digital demand generation efforts. So why do we ultimately decide to work with SRG Marketing? TowerPoint and Armadillo are actually in a pretty different situation, but both need a pretty broad swath of demand gen services. We needed to ramp them up, and we needed to show results quickly, and SRG really felt like the path to do that. So some of the benefits of working with SRG Marketing, in my mind, small and medium-sized businesses are actually faced with three bad options when it comes to lead gen. They can hire a full stack in-house team, and they're going to seriously overspend. That's not good for a small business. They could hire a full-fledged marketing agency, but the problem with that is it's also a budget buster, and if you're not a large company, you're not going to get the true attention of an agency like that, and you're essentially going to be ignored. You're going to be really frustrated and not feel good about the ROI there. And third, you could cobble together a team of independent specialists, third-party specialists, and that sort of represents your outsourced marketing team, and you could be pretty scrappy with that. But the problem with that is that everything's disjointed, and it's actually a full-time job just to managing those groups. So I actually feel like SRG is threading that needle. If you're small, you're medium-sized, how do you stand something up pretty quickly that's really well coordinated, that's very results oriented, that's actually affordable? So speaking of ROI, we think about ROI with SRG Marketing. Let me toggle between the two companies that I've worked with SRG on. With TowerPoint, we had a hypothesis, and SRG was part of this, developing this hypothesis, that we might be able to take a business that's essentially 100% outbound and make it maybe just a little bit inbound, 2 to 3% inbound. That alone would be a win. And Brian still thinks this should be 10 to 20%. We'll see if we ever get there, right? But this small sliver has proved out an ROI in itself. Just having enough inbound volume. These are folks that are already in market, that are showing those signals that we unlocked through our relationship with SRG. So that's exciting. The branding piece, is always a little bit harder to measure, but SRG has actually done a really good job of providing us plenty of visibility to show our gains in the branding, and that seems very fulfilling and very worthwhile. Armadillo's a newer relationship, but we're already seeing a lift across the board, activity, connects, meetings. SRG is helping us on the reporting, so we're actually getting a really good view into how all that is going, and maybe an unintended benefit is that it's actually giving us a performance management muscle. So now we can actually hold people accountable in ways we couldn't before. So we're going to get more out of our people just by having SRG in there and doing the dashboarding that they're doing on their own activity, but it also gives us a view of what our actual people are doing. What it's like working with SRG, I'd say the highlights are highly accessible. Being a small or medium-sized business, that's hard to obtain. So being able to reach the leadership and the true talent that they bring, they come off as very reasonable. They have a point of view and a stake in the ground, but they're willing to work with and around the way we do things. And my experience is they genuinely want to deliver value. They're not about, ramping up spend. They've even told us sometimes, like, this is a slow month, let's bring down the spend. So like they line up their incentives and their service around actual impact. And we love that as a business. Yeah, look, if you're a small or medium organization and you want to stand up a lead gen function, SRG makes a lot of sense to work with. The speed in which you can work, the accessibility that you're going to have with them, getting to value really quickly, it absolutely makes sense to give them a shot.